What's up, everybody? It's your boy, StephenMotivate, back again with another episode of The Journey. We're super excited to have our friend that you now know. We talked about some of the things she's doing in AI that were super exciting, really taught us about things that we need to be thinking about and looking to do in order to maximize on the AI opportunity. But in addition to AI, she's also a realtor. And she has a ton of experience in that. Welcome again, Pam, to the show. What's up, Pam?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really enjoying our time together. I think we need to do this more often.
We can.
Okay.
We have a whole space dedicated to
this.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
As long as everybody keeps listening to us, right? Mackenzie, we need to tell them subscribe to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and that's a good point. Like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you like about this episode. We'd love to, get you a part of the community. And you guys know the name of the show. It's The Journey. So, right, it's all about the ups and the downs. Entrepreneurship is not this ascension just straight up into the heavens of riches. It is rather a roller coaster. But
it really is.
I'm super interested in real estate.
Are you?
Yeah. So, my business neighbor here, Ed, he does homes, he does construction.
He dabbles.
He dabbles. Let me tell you a little bit about my real estate experience. So I was going back to school to get my master's.
Okay.
And
master's in what? Just curious.
Business.
Okay.
With a focus in entrepreneurship. Right? No kidding, right? So at the time, I started learning about how to buy tax sale properties.
Okay.
And so I bought a few properties. I'm maybe in my early 20s at this time. And I don't recommend doing this. I took my student loan, and I took half of my student loan, and I purchased these properties.
You really are an entrepreneur, aren't you?
Yeah. AKA, not lifelong learner, I guess. But anyway, it was a lot of failures, right?
Yeah.
And
they're not easy.
Well, long story short, I bought the properties. We started fixing up one. People came, ripped out the water heaters, ripped out the copper, took down the aluminum siding. It was like an old house. It had like aluminum siding or something. Yeah. And so all the money I'd put in, I came back 3 or 4 months later, and it was like, oh, this is all gone, and we don't even have enough to finish. So it was a learning experience. It is. We don't lose, we learn.
You fail once you quit, right? Yeah. In real estate, people make an assumption that there's a realtor and she does this. She works with investors, or she works with bankruptcy and foreclosures, or, short-term rentals, beach properties, things like that. And what's interesting is we all get the same license, and we learn from our own experiences. Yeah. So with what you just said, I have to go back to when I first got into real estate. I was so fearful of failing, which I didn't even know was a thing, but it really was, that I was just like, I'm just going to keep going. So I kept playing the dog and bone, right? Just keep going. And what's funny about it is I actually did things because in my own head, I said, I'm fearful of failing. My first year is just going to be learning, just going to take every experience comes my way and just work through it. Right. And I did a short sale my first year, and it was painful. Again, I was using other people's money. I know you were using yours, but I was using other people's money. But I wasn't buying it. It was my clients, doing everything I can. But I knew I couldn't fail if I kept moving forward, right? So I was willing to put the time in. I was willing to put the effort in. And then there were some foreclosures that came up for some clients, and they really wanted to buy it. And I was like, okay, let's just work through it, right? And I had a really good friend who was an attorney who managed a lot of their closings in New York. Okay. So as in New York, you're not a title state. Everybody has their own attorney. So if I have questions, you just ask, right? So I learned these things. And in my first year in real estate, which is not normal, guys, I sold 21 homes. Wow. Not to one family member. Wow. Not to anyone I knew. I did open houses. I literally just worked. Again, remember dog and bone. If there's a bone, this dog's going to get it, right? So I would do those things. And what's crazy is in my second year, I sold 50 houses. There was some family members and some friends who were like, well, she might know what she's doing, so now we'll hire her, right? Yeah. But what's crazy is in my second year, people said, Pam, I remember you doing that short sale, and I saw you got a regular loan for it, or you did that foreclosure, and how'd you get a loan for it? And so everybody started coming to me like, how'd you do that? Which I didn't even know that I knew something that no one else did because I just was learning. So to your point, it really is a learning experience. You don't know what you don't know until you get in it and you start researching, building. So what's crazy about it is I would help someone go and say, okay, hey, this house looks like it's a great, flip.
Yeah.
The word flip, right? And the people said, okay, you know what, Pam, we're doing this, we're doing that. I'm like, okay, it sounds good. They're like, hey, do you mind just coming over and checking on the house to make sure that it looks good? I walk in the garage and they got the old brass knobs they're going to put through the house. I said, oh no, that's not happening. So then I started designing the houses where I would be like, this is how the house has to look, right?
Yeah.
And then I started using virtual staging pretty early on when most people weren't. So that vacant house that looked a little creepy looked amazing with my virtual staging.
Wow.
Putting furniture, things like that. Because millennials, you're people that are younger, let's just say, because millennials kind of go a little far, they can't see vision. So let's just use your back wall right here. It's gorgeous. It has feature wall, right? Mm-hmm. Guess what my old feature wall used to be?
What?
Old paneling, and I painted a different color so it looked like a feature wall. And everybody's like, oh, this is gorgeous. And then I would send them a picture and show them, well, this is what it looked like before. And they would gawk. They'd be like, I was like, right, but you're buying it now and you just paid an extra $20,000.
Because you made it. So let me ask you this, Pam. You're just a person that goes after it, clearly.
Well, you're a driver too.
I am. I try to be. But so we have, that in common.
Yeah.
But what you talked about, you got into real estate and you're taking a year, you're going to learn, but what got you into it? Is there a person that you knew that was in real estate? Were you like, this is a moneymaker, I'm going to get in? Or
you know what? I'll say one thing to you. The minute you say get into real estate and it's a moneymaker, you're in the wrong profession. I'm just going to be 100% honest because I get so many realtors. And what you don't know is I am a certified coach for real estate. And when they tell me that I got into it for the money, it's the wrong business. If you got into it for a flexible work schedule, you got into the wrong business. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for someone who can just do it part-time. Just remember, you are working with somebody's money who that is their biggest purchase in their lives. So if you're not passionate, if you are not going to take it seriously, get out. Like, that's just end game because I'm not going to let you take my money and, to your point, make mistakes with it.
Yeah.
And me pay for it. Not happening.
And so how long you been doing real estate?
10 years.
Wow.
10 years.
Okay.
But going back to your point of like the learning process and putting that stuff together, it was crazy because I don't know if you have those friends, but before I got into real estate, I was in IT, as we talked about AI, right?
Yeah.
And what happened was every time I would have a money guy, so we call him Joe Money, by the way, and everybody's like, Pam, can you give me Joe Money's name? And then I have a handyman. Can you give me your handyman? Pam, can you give me your attorney? So it was kind of being a connector. So
how did you get a handyman? How did you get a Joe Money man? Or how did you?
Did I not just tell you I'm driven?
Yes.
Yes. I know everybody.
So were you using your IT background to find people quicker? Or
no.
Googling and
it was just one of those things about I really early on in life, I used to do rescue work for animals. I was involved in charities in the area. I just knew people. I always liked the relationship. I always want to meet someone new. I mean, we're already friends, right? And this is just our second podcast, right?
Yes, all right. Well, slow down a little bit, but yes.
Whoa.
No, we are friends.
But to that point, it's just getting to know people. And I just am that person that I love connecting with people and I love learning about who they are.
It's like a gift you have then.
Yeah, but I am an entrepreneur. I think that if you're an entrepreneur and I can help benefit you and connect you, why wouldn't I do that? Right. If I care about you and your business, obviously I'm going to connect you, right? Yeah. But back then it was crazy because a couple of the realtors I was passing business to, they would laugh and they said, my client doesn't even call me, Pam. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? They send you a message and say, hey, we went under contract in that house you saw with us. We need an attorney now. And then I would send, while working, an email to my attorney and to them and say, hey, here they are, and start. And my friend said, yeah, all I'm doing is the paperwork and getting paid. She goes, you've sent me 4 deals this year. She goes, and I'm like, I go, well, first of all, I know there's a lot more to real estate than just that. They're like, yeah, but you're a part of every step for these people because they trust you. Yeah. Again, entrepreneurs, you work with people you trust and you like, right? So that's how I got started, was that I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. I like getting a paycheck, but to be honest, in tech, women were not appreciated when I was in it. And that's been over 10 years. We were layman's terms. We could talk people's speech and everybody loved it, but you never got paid like anybody else in the business because, as long as you're grumpy behind a desk in IT, you got paid more money because you acted like you're smarter than everybody else. So being a layman's person, everybody liked talking to me, but I never got paid what anyone else got paid. And that's just a fact.
Just not going to be, and you got to a point where it's like, I'm not just going to continue to live like this or work like this?
No, because I was overworked.
Yeah.
I would still get called on Christmas from the CEOs. The CEOs would have me at their house because they didn't like my bosses. So everybody said, "Oh, we absolutely love you," but I would have to go to Verizon and get accessories for phones.
Yeah,
like that was just kind of like one of my job duties.
Yeah,
so it was just one of those points where you're overworked for the money you're making.
Yeah.
So being an entrepreneur, sky's the limit, right? They say, but it's really about if your work ethic's there, you're gonna make good money in entrepreneurship, and as you know, it goes up and down.
Yeah.
And real estate has been hard in this last year, and I know that we're gonna kind of talk about it a little bit, but real estate has not been easy if you have a realtor that you love, send them a note, send them candy, send them something, because it has been a very hard year for realtors in general.
Put a prayer up for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay, so before we get to present day, have the last 10 years been golden? I know you just said it hasn't, but explain how, because I know 2008, I graduated around 2008. So I know it was crisis and all this sort of thing going on. It was a crisis in the car business.
Yeah.
Mortgage things were collapsed. People couldn't, blah, 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 blah. So that happened. So we get a little past that. You've been doing it 10 years. So that's about
2014.
2014. So has real estate been on an upswing for the past 10 years? It really has. Okay.
It didn't look like it in 2014. It didn't pop, I'll say at that point, but it wasn't bad. You had 3-4 houses you could pick from, but
what do you mean when you said 3-4 houses you could pick from to sell to?
No, so let's just say that you said, hey, my price point is $250,000 in 2014.
Gotcha.
We could look at probably 8-9 houses in the general area you wanted. During COVID, it was one, and you had 2 hours to make a decision if you wanted it or not.
Right, you better decide now.
Exactly.
And what type of person is that? So 2014, you're talking about a small family, first house, $250,000.
Yep.
For the,
Yeah. I mean, in some cases too, it could have been even less. There's some people and some of the very, do you ever ask like, how did this person get this $1 million home?
Yeah.
Some of these people in some of these neighborhoods, these houses were sold for just $350.
Yeah.
Back then, and some of these people lived in them for 20 years, and they're worth $1 million, but they lived in them for probably 15 years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because you're like, oh, where did they get all that money? But some of these people don't have the money. They just
got
a
lot of equity.
They just stayed, yeah.
And so 2014, we get to,
it's really been going up. The interest rates went down, by the way, I think before 2008, don't quote me on it, but I think the interest rates were 7 or 8. I know in 2000 it was. And then in 2014, the rates were sitting at, I think, about a 4.5. In 2016, they went up to 5, but still house prices were pretty low in comparison to now.
And that's one of my biggest regrets because I've been here in Charlotte for about 10 years. And I remember there was a VP at the company I was working at. He asked me, have you bought a house yet? And I was like, bought a house?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even know if I want to be here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just moved away from my hometown. Like, what? That's not even on my radar.
Yeah.
But I realize now that, man, I probably could have been one of those people that bought a $300,000 house that, what is that, tripled in value.
It definitely has tripled. Yeah.
If I would have been in the market at that time.
But even to your point, I do too. I was like, there were a couple opportunities. I could have bought something and I was like, I'm not in love with it, but it's a nice price. And I was like, oh, I don't want to put my money there. But now you're like, wait, that's, that house is now worth $600,000. And, I could have taken the bank 400 of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
So now we went through COVID. COVID was crazy. It seemed like it was going to be a negative time, right? Where everything was going to be dropping and it was going to be the biggest recession ever. And it seems like it did the exact opposite. It
was weird. It was really weird because remember, everybody started working at home.
Yeah.
And then, divorce rates. Did you know about the divorce rates over COVID?
No, tell me.
It was up to 60% after.
Wow.
I'm saying at the end of COVID-ish. But yeah, because husband and wives were 24/7 at home, right? They're their hub. And you had your office spaces. When you're buying houses and you're like, I'm buying what I can afford, and you're 1,000 square foot and you got 2 kids and 2 adults and there's no place to go, people were like, get me a new house. Like, get me something. And interest rates were down to 2.7s, 2.9s at that point. So you literally, we're borrowing money from, as the United States more than the interest rates. So, so we're paying for that. So my point just is that people literally like, is it cheaper to get a divorce or is it cheaper to get a bigger house where we have our own spaces, right? And that's really what was happening.
Wow.
So for real estate, and to your point, I don't know The stock market I don't even think did that great, but real estate market just killed it. Anything that had to do with building homes, the wood, all those different pieces, it really did keep that economy. And I think that's what they said during COVID, afloat instead of going into a recession.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're coming off of that.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of realtors. So do you know some of the people that you coach that have just been in, for a couple years, probably hadn't been in that long, and it's been high flying, high sailing.
Yeah. They got 6 vacations and I'm still working. Yeah. Can you cover for me, Pam? Yeah. Yeah. They're taking that money and they're going out. I think I told Troy at one point that every time one of my clients, well, I shouldn't say one of my clients, but one of them, my coach, are like, oh, I just got a really good deal. I'm going to get a spa day and a facial. And I'm sitting here thinking, I got to get my next deal. I don't know.
Right. I got to keep working.
I got to keep going. You never know when doomsday happens, right? But no, it's definitely, as realtors, they are connectors. They definitely care about the communities. And there's a lot of really good realtors in this area, but some of them, they're not saving the dollars.
Yeah.
And some are still renting. I kind of question that too. I don't know why because if they're renting and I'm buying a house from someone that's renting, I don't know how I feel about that. But
yeah. Buying has been a good thing for me. But like we always say on this show, save your money.
Yeah.
Don't blow it all. Invest. Right. We don't
invest in education, invest in you.
Keep something back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Invest in yourself. Absolutely. So we definitely talk about that a lot. So you said doomsday, and I was talking to Troy as well. He was giving me the, 411 on what's going on in real estate, and he talked about some things were changing. It's like I'm not in real estate for real, so I kind of had heard about it, that there were some laws changing and some things had become different, and the way that the buyer's going to be or
impacted.
They're impacted, and the seller's going to be impacted, and who's paying whose commissions, and da. And even when I bought my house, it was totally unplanned.
Yeah.
I had an apartment. It was 2019. So by God's grace, I just got.
Nobody knew. If we all knew,
I had an apartment I was already signed up for, but there was something else I hadn't signed yet. And so me and my girlfriend at the time, we were just looking at different houses, and we were driving around neighborhoods, and we came way out to somewhere in, Concord, Huntersville area.
Okay.
And we're like, oh, we're just we're just hanging out.
Right.
It was like almost I thought I was pretty impressive because
you didn't think you were committing at that point.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I did not. I thought I was having
it was a girlfriend just hanging out, just chilling.
Cool day date.
Yeah.
Let's just go look at houses. We've never done this before.
Yeah.
And let's look at I don't. Do you call them used houses? What do you call it? Like
resales.
Resales.
Not that we tell consumers that. We're like, oh, let's look at some houses, but yeah, for us, it's resales.
Yeah. So we were looking at that, and then we just happened to look across the street, and it's like, oh, there's all these new houses going up. So let's just pop in there.
Shiny and bright.
Yeah. I just wanted to look at it. I was like, we can't afford this. There's no way we can.
Yeah.
But fast forward through all of that, we ended up buying a house, and I didn't have they suggested a realtor to me.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, do you have a realtor?
I got to find out who that person is because I want to be suggested too.
And I was like, no, I don't. He's like, well, we've got someone if you need someone. They didn't pressure me. I was like, sure, I don't care. I'm not even serious about buying. I'm just having a day date. And so they sent me the person, and then it ended up being a D.R. Horton home.
Okay.
And it was like the last house, and they were having trouble selling it because it was like on the edge of Concord, Huntersville, and it had something to do with the schooling. And so I say all that to say, I never even thought about who was getting commissioned and who was getting paid. And but anyway, you said doomsday. So is that what it feels like for realtors right now? And how does this tie into these recent legislative changes that have happened around this topic about who gets paid when you buy a house?
For the record, I've known about this podcast for a while, and I still don't know how I'm going to answer those questions because everybody has different opinions on it. And so I hope I don't fumble too much in this communication, but why it feels like doomsday is because a lot of things in the back end that people don't see changed that really wasn't resulted based on a realtor. It was based on just the way that the real estate was practiced. And firms had different ways and procedures on how certain firms did things. So, and as I talk about this, the fact is that commissions have always been negotiable. Like, it doesn't matter when, what, how. as a realtor, just talking about me and my business, if I spoke to you and you said you're going to sell your house, because we'll go to the buy side in a minute, I would talk to you about the value proposition, what I'm going to be doing for it. And I would also say to you, listen, we want as many people as possible, just so you know. So the commission that you've already agreed to give me, I'm splitting it, right? I'm going to have, and I'm going to tell them it's cooperative. That means that this is going to bring all these realtors, right? I'm going to make a joke, but it's like, bring all the boys to the milkshake to the yard.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So that was kind of like the explanation was like, you want all these people to come and bring their clients, right? So we want to make sure that you're open market. So we're going to offer this commission.
Helps you sell it faster.
Right. 100%.
See more.
So
makes sense.
what changed was by the way, I'm just going to give you the general thing, was that there was a conversation with two people, and this person belongs to a firm, and the firm isn't a discount broker. I'm going to use that discount broker, right? Okay. And when this person stated to her that I don't want to or care about paying the buyer's agent, they said that's our practice. That's what, like, you're paying for me, but you're also paying for the buyer side. Now, what's interesting is, just so you know, I just told you how I do it, that whatever we agree upon, and I cooperate, right? So it doesn't matter what the number is. And you're going to say, yes, I want everybody to come. So whatever I'm giving you, please split it.
Okay,
Thank you.
So let's make this crystal clear for folks that aren't in this world. Yeah. So let's use round numbers. $500,000 house. I'm ready to sell it. I'm coming to you, Pam, help me sell it. Let's just make up a number. I don't know if this is real or not. Let's say that you're going to make, and I know this is probably way high, 20%.
Okay, so let's just say X at this point, just so that I don't get in trouble by the commission.
All right,
but let's just say it's X. And so it's going to be X divided by 2. Yeah.
Okay, so X divided by 2.
And the reason that is because outside of me paying for pictures, paying for measurements, everything that I'm required to do, the documentation, all the forms I have to give you, and marketing it, by the way, just not a sign in the ground, I'm doing that. Plus, I'm going to make sure that you get out to all the markets.
So it's just not a sign in the ground?
Well, that's what they say. Because all they did was put a sign in the ground. And, my house was so great. It sold after our sign, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot that gets done in the background.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of things, what happened was, if someone would have came to me and said, hey, I have no interest in, paying for a buyer's agent. I don't want to cooperate, right? Yeah. What happened was the MLS, your associations in the area, and really NAR, you could not, as a realtor, advertise even some of the new construction. If new construction didn't want to pay a realtor, they weren't allowed to advertise on the MLS the house, because there was no cooperating commission. So with this that came out literally on August 17th, is that now anybody, as long as they're a realtor or associated, can actually advertise, and there's no commissions at all advertised for any cooperating people. So even if you said yes to me, that you're okay with paying me and you're okay with me cooperating, it still cannot be advertised that that's happening. At the same time, if you're talking to a seller and they say, I think you're great, Pam, and I want to give you
You are
this.
great, Pam, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to pay you X dollars, but I have no interest in, the house is going to sell itself. The sign on the ground's going to be plenty, Pam. I know you can do it. I don't need to pay the extra money to that person, right? Because now they're seen as extra. Because before I'm like, value proposition, this is what I'm doing for you. But now they're seeing it as an extra fee to bring a buyer. So to the buyers, so now we're turning to the buyer point, because to your point, a lot of times buyers didn't understand because the sellers traditionally had always covered at least the commissions, right? Traditionally, let's just make sure that we understand that it's a 80-20 rule, right?
Right.
So what happens now is you have buyers who, let's just say they got married and, spent $50,000 on a wedding. Now all of a sudden they're going to go buy a house because rents are $2,500. I mean, rents are crazy. You're going anywhere from $1,800 to $3,500 that I've heard some of my first-time buyers paying. Yeah. And that's a lot. But if they don't have, $15,000, $20,000 to put down, now the commissions on top of it, they can't buy a house. So that's what has affected, is that truly the buyer is now responsible for their commissions unless realtors protect the situation to where we're explaining it like we've always done, that, hey, unfortunately now there's going to be steering. By the way, is a horrible word. I hope the commission doesn't call me that one either. But there's going to be steering
we'll
because
cut it if we have to. But
okay. Well, the reason I say that is because let's say you have a house and you have a house on the same street, right? There's two of you that have a house on the street, right? And you're offering a buyer agency and this one's not, right? And what happens is if my client says, hey, I can't afford to give you that money, so I'll go with this house and I buy it. What is that? It's steering based on the economics.
Right.
So now that house gets sold over that house. That's not.
Yeah.
So it's
I mean, that's common sense. If there
right.
if there is some sort of incentive for a person to help get this house sold versus this one, then is that these lawmakers' thought is that people will get compensated somehow anyway?
No, what they're saying is that a buyer has the right, first of all, to pay for their own representation. And second of all, what they're saying is that if a buyer wants to not be represented, which you just talked about, you buying things not knowing, and you're just going to buy something without being represented, they have the right to do so because they don't want to pay for it. So, which is really bad because the people that need the help the most a lot of times in buying home.
Yeah, I could have got blown away.
Right.
First time home buyer.
Right.
No idea
you
what
don't know
I'm
what
doing.
You're doing. And you wouldn't even done an inspection. Like you like there's so many things that you don't do.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have known. And so once I work with my realtor, I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Now I understand what the comps are.
Right.
I understand that this is probably, and so once we got to the price, and at the time it was a price that was on the higher end, she explained to me that, okay, I'm forever grateful because now my house is almost, not quite doubled, but it went up crazy. And I think it's come back down some.
And you even said something though. You said, I was at my max. So what's crazy is, you're at your max budget because you're trying to do the best you can with the money you have. Yeah. Now you got to add the commissions of your realtor, which can be significant at that price range.
Kills the deal.
It does. It kills the deal. Veterans, by the way, they're 100% financing. And this is one of the people that are going to get hurt by this because veterans can't pay commissions. They're not allowed to pay any money outside the deal. It's 100%. So if there's not an offering from the seller to say, hey, I understand that there's a cost in doing business. Like we all have costs of doing business. Yeah. I mean, even as an entrepreneur, I'm paying 25% taxes every time I spend $1, right? Because I'm an entrepreneur. There's a cost to doing business. And as sellers don't understand the fact that, hey, it's negotiable. And if you feel like your house is selling, then maybe you don't offer as much, but you should offer something, right? And because you're going to lose out on those veterans who deserve those loans, deserve that right to own that house. And we shouldn't be putting and penalizing them because of a lawsuit. We should be better. We should do better for these people.
And so what if you've got someone whose their entire business last year was built off of what was traditionally done?
Yeah, the buyer's agents are saying, well,
are they piecing out?
They're piecing out.
They're closing up shop?
Yeah. Have you seen a lot of new car salespeople? Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I'll go sell cars.
Yeah. Because the fact is that they now got to talk to their client who's buying a $300,000 home that literally needs, let's just say $10,000 saved up, or even maybe, there's the buyer programs, right? That helps them with money.
Yeah.
And maybe they have $3,000-$4,000, but they don't have enough to cover a buyer agent.
Full commission, yeah.
No.
Because that commission was typically on the list price.
Right.
So
it was by the way, the buyer pays for title work, surveys, all that stuff, but the seller traditionally 80-20 rule would pay the commissions, and that's how it was always set up. Yeah. Now, what's interesting about this is that while it does affect these people, as realtors, we literally have the choice. We're independent contractors. We should be able to make the decisions on our own on how we're going to run our business. So you'll see some people out there now advertising the lower interest or the lower commissions. They'll put them out there on postcards. Oh, look, just hire me for this amount, this amount. But what's funny is they're still going into the people saying, yeah, you can hire me for this amount because now, the lawsuit created the fact where they just need to talk about their commissions, not the full package. So they can go and say, hey, you don't have to cooperate, but I suggest you do. But they're getting in with postcards and they're advertising it out like, hey, look, you're going to save money. But the fact is it's just getting them in the door to save money. They're really not saving money because they're coming back and saying, listen, the market has stalled. And it's, the interest rates have gotten closer to 8. They now just today, gone closer to, they're quoting less, right? Almost a point less right now. But nobody knows what the Fed's going to do in September. So the market has just stalled for the last 2 months. And in Charlotte, we're in a 14-year deficit for housing, and our market stalled at our interest rates currently. And then all of a sudden you're going to say, hey, I'm not covering any money for, the buyer agent or, so their houses are sitting. So it's kind of crazy because it's affecting a lot of things. But, this year in general, 2024, as we kind of come out of COVID, right? Because we're not talking about COVID as much in 2024 as we are 2023, has really just been crazy. Like, it's not just real estate, like, it's the stock markets, the tech stocks and things like that, like the unemployment and everything like that. So it's kind of crazy that with housing, remember I told you during COVID, when everything was kind of all over the place, housing market stayed steady. And now you're coming in here, the housing market's not steady because of the interest rates, and now everything else is crazy. So nobody wants to make any decisions. Nobody wants to sell. Nobody wants to make decisions because it's too unstable. So this lawsuit in general now really causes even more problems because you're not going to have a buyer pool. If the buyer can't afford you, right, they're not buying a house. It's not even about getting the loan. They get the loan, but then they have the choice to try to go and buy from a seller the house with the listing agent who's not going to be representing them. And that's, to me, a little scary. In 10 years in the business, because I would never want my family members buying a house unrepresented.
Yeah.
Never.
Because you never know what's being hidden.
There's a lot of things always hidden. Because, the houses around here have been around for, some have been 1900, but, not knob and tube electrical was in the 1940s here. Yeah. So it's behind a wall. Wow. So that's black smoke and a fire, and someone doesn't, inspect that, they don't know. Right. And I bought a new house, and there was a bunch of stuff still that, needed fixed,
needed done. Yeah. Like, why don't we have an outlet there?
Yeah.
I think it was like our entertainment closet or something. There was no outlet inside of it. Now, of course, we call the people, and they made it make sense. But
well, at least, you had warranties at that point. But to that point, even someone buying the house themselves, they don't even know about the warranties. So. And this is through the United States. This isn't just in the Carolinas. This is everywhere. But, up in upstate New York where I'm from, we only did home warranties 3% of the time. Down here, they do 95% of the time. But that's because the realtor sells the house. So if you start pulling them out of the game, people don't even know that that's something that can keep them from really just being upside down their house because they're spending so much money fixing it. Right. Is a home warranty. Yeah. So, and home warranties cover certain things, but if there's not anyone there to educate them, it's going to be kind of a whole. And I think people are trying to work through it. I think there's. Yeah,
give us some hope. What are the strategies?
Remember how I told you I didn't want to be doomsday today?
Yeah. Well, what is the hope for? I mean, it sounds like it's I can't tell who. I guess it is affecting everyone. The buyer, the actual end user, the consumer doesn't know that this is fully happening yet. Yeah. You guys know because you're in the business. What are some effective? It
has been all over TikTok and Instagram and stuff. So
folks know
a lot of probably misinformation, but there's definitely where people are at least asking questions. Yeah. And I think like we talked about in this podcast, like if people have questions, reach out. We'll definitely get you the information. But I think that the realtors, I don't think you're going to have as many realtors come in the future. Yeah. Because they've got to support their families too. People forget that a realtor is a full-time job. So if they're not making the money and then you don't have them out there for representation, you just don't. As a listing agent, I'm going to commit to the fact of a really well-versed discussion with my sellers about why we're doing what we're doing. And so that we get top dollar. Yeah. Because guess what? That buyer can, get pre-approved and buy with a loan more house. But if they're there trying to nickel and dime, the other pieces, they don't have as much money. Right. So, so getting someone in the house makes sense.
So will the buyer then, or the agent for the buyer, try to get the buyer to sign a contract early on?
They have to. Now the new rule is that, so let's just say, and this is, again, the way that I run my business is that if you called me and said, hey, I really like such and such house, we're going to sit down and talk about it. And I'll talk to you about buyer agency and working with real estate, things like that. But what's funny is a lot of times I'll say, hey, I'm going to send you this contract to make sure that you understand that we're in a relationship, right? I always talk about marriage and real estate, right? Yeah. Like we're just seeing each other. But a lot of times, and by the way, hopefully I don't get in trouble for this one either. Hi, people at the commission. I wouldn't necessarily, say, hey, let's talk. Because if I don't work for you, you don't work for me, right? But I'd say to my people, listen, we're going to sign this contract. And if you don't like me, you find someone better, you get someone that just really resonates better with you, just call me and tell me, to cancel. That was how I always ran my business. Now, before you even show them the very first house, you have to have something signed.
Yeah.
So obviously you always had to have pre-approval, but you literally have to know that you're going to work with that person before you even show the first house. And you even said, even in your story, that you were just out looking. You weren't even thinking you were buying a house. Now that same person who's just casually looking now has to sign a contract with another human being to say, hey, I'm committed to you and help me buy a house. So it's a little frustrating.
I would have never signed. Yeah. I would have been very adverse to it because I didn't think I was ready. It ended up being the best decision I ever made, but I would have, if it was a lot of friction, I already have an apartment.
Why don't you ask me the same question?
Would you have bought?
I would never have signed anything.
Okay.
I am definitely a commitment phobe. I committed to my husband. That is probably about the only thing I've ever committed to. And so if you ask me to commit to a relationship with anybody and any kind of working thing, I definitely need, there better be steak 48 or beef and bottle or something. Like we definitely need to have a couple meals before I agree to sign anything for any period of time. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's hard for me to tell. Because if I'm telling you to sign something to work with me, but yet I don't believe in that, it's very hard for me to do that. Yeah. So hopefully I survive this whole entire change because it's very hard to have your ethics and to be able to potentially, be in line with some of these things, because I don't think anyone should have to 100%, buy into something until they're ready to commit to something. Thankfully, I'm pretty open. I've never had anybody truly fire me, but I just tell people, it's the contract's between me and you, but I still would have never signed it because I am a loyal person, as you probably already know. Yeah, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it. If I say I'm doing something, I do it.
Well, you're here today.
I'm here today.
So this is in law as of right now?
August 17th is when it comes into play. Yep.
Okay, so next week.
It's really, I think, tomorrow.
Oh, is it tomorrow? Oh, that is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Mm-hmm.
This month is flying.
But I will say that the associations in general started as of August 1st. So everything's in play as August 1st, but the Department of Justice asked us to have everything in place by the 17th.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So
this isn't, a lot of people don't, I have to do more research on this.
Okay.
Because I did a little, but I need to do more because I'm very curious. So would you recommend that? Because if I want to do right by people in general, and I'm in the market for a house, do you recommend that I do research as a consumer and make sure, hey, just know that it's totally changed on the realtor side, and so it almost is a. If you're going to be,
if you have a relationship with a realtor, get on a Zoom call, talk through it, because planning is where you make your money. If you fail to plan, you've gone, plan to fail. Yeah. So if you think of, like, even in the next year or 2 years, I'm going to buy a house, just get on the phone with the realtor, have that conversation now about what you have to plan for, because there might be things that come out. I mean, like I said, tomorrow is when this all comes out. In a year, it may have changed. Yeah. It might change. There might be some other ways of doing it. But for now, yeah, if you're going to see a house, you have to have a buyer agency sign of some sort, something that, some kind of document that says where you stand in the relationships. Yeah, that's it. But again, I'm available for a phone call. You guys have questions? Yeah. Things come up.
Tell them again how to find you, how to contact you.
So my website is fenderhomes.com. Okay. And you can reach out to me at my last name, Fender, at fenderhomes.com. Yeah. And my phone number is 704-750-8140. And if you guys do want to have that conversation, I'll take you to Chick-fil-A.
There you go.
Yeah.
And they've got some nice.
Just not on Sunday.
Not on Sunday because they're closed. But we'll put that in the show notes down below. And what would you... So this is my last question. Yeah. For people that are on the fence about buying a house, like you said, interest rates are super high. We got a lot of younger folks here who aren't, either they haven't purchased a home yet or don't know when they want. For me, if somebody's asking me, I'm going to tell them, purchase a home as soon as you can. It's the best decision I ever made. But it is a weird time. Yeah. Is there ever a bad time to purchase a home? And what would you say about somebody that's looking to purchase or think they're going to be purchasing? So should they do it or should they wait?
So the rule that I always come up with is that based on the rent and how much money they have saved up. Because if they're paying $1,500 in rent right now and they only got $5,000 to their name, they're actually renting cheaper than what the average house is in Charlotte, right? Unless they don't want a lot. I mean, if they want something that where it's $1,500 right now, just so that you kind of understand, is probably a $150,000 home, right? And so you got to have, again, current times, right? So the fact is what I'll tell people. And by the way, I host a home buyers event, so I can share it with you guys where you can put it out there. You know, we have the financial planner, because that's been a bigger thing. We've always had a home inspector and an attorney, but now wealth planning is a huge piece for millennials, where it's like, it's not only about the house, it's about, okay, my 401k, am I putting money in my 401k? Am I putting enough money to help with that down payment in the future? So, so we're educating them before they're getting started. And usually a lot of my clients, we're starting 2 years beforehand for first time home buyers, but we make it fun.
I love that.
Yeah. So we're doing that. But to your point, if someone's renting at $3,500 and they got $40,000 in the bank, we should be having a conversation, because there is a lot of really good deals going on right now, because the interest rates are so high.
Yeah.
And you always can refinance yourself out of the interest rate. So interest rates not forever. The house is definitely, you're buying what you want.
That's awesome. All right, Pam, you've given us wonderful knowledge and gems today. Thank you so much. Look, if you tuned in today, hopefully you learned something about real estate. Hopefully you learned something about just what I think is interesting is all the different things, all the different professions, and the different challenges folks have to go through.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, Pam, for going through it, getting through it, going on the journey.
Thank you.
You've been up. Sounds like the hill might be going down a little bit, but
we'll survive, right? I think there's a song.
Right. That's what I was going to try to think of something inspirational to say, but I think you got it. You'll survive.
Yeah,
you'll get through it. You've made it this far.
Yep.
Right. And you'll continue on. So whether it's in real estate or something else, we hope it's in real estate, because it sounds like you're pretty good at it. But you know, I made a post on LinkedIn earlier today that we are not our jobs. Right. We come to our jobs. We love. It's an honor to work, but at the end of the day, right. We're not limited and confined by just what we do. We have more ability, more potential, and if it switches on us,
purpose.
Yeah. Let the
chips fall where they'll fall.
Let the chips fall where they may.
And by the way, you can pick them back up and make a hand out of it.
Boom. Yeah. There it is. I couldn't get it, but you got it.
Thank you.
That's it. All right, y'all. Until next time, it's your boy, StephenMotivate. Thanks again, Pam.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Stay motivated. Peace.